Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are. This is Radio Works World. You're here with your host, Sabrina Ben on the Dream Big show. I'm here today with my special guest, someone who I really admire, Brian Benson. His mission is to wake up the world with conscious, thought-provoking media that inspires. He's founder of Reawake Media, an award-winning author, filmmaker, actor, TEDx speaker. He knows the value of trusting your intuition and wants to share his own personal journey of growth, discovery, and accomplishments with the listeners. Brian, welcome to the show. I'm absolutely honored that you accepted my invitation to be interviewed. We've been Facebook friends for some time now. I love your work, your book. I hope you got copies of your book, actually.
I've got some right here. Yes.
Excellent. Yes. So just welcome. How are you? How are you today?
I'm really good. I'm good. I have no complaints.
Well, that's a good place. That's a good space to be, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Could you start by just giving me a bit more background on what you do? Because, your bio is just amazing. Filmmaker, actor, author, award-winning author, may I add. Tell myself and the listeners a bit more about you, about your journey.
Well, I think the work that I've recently done, probably in the last 7 or 8 years that you're talking about, all kind of happened accidentally. I was running my family business up in Salem, Oregon. We had a golf center, like a driving range and a retail store and a 9-hole par 3 course. And I just felt like I was kind of complete there. I felt like I'd done, I wasn't growing there anymore. And I felt like there was something else I was supposed to do with my life. And I had no idea what it was. So I had a chat with my dad, and he was understanding. And it took about a year for me to end up leaving because we decided to sell it. And so I'd hang around even though I was just ready to hit the road and start my new life, whatever that meant. And so one day I realized I was out of balance. And so I sat down and just came up with a handful of things that I felt would help keep me in balance during that last bit of time I was spending there.
Yes.
And it really helped me.
What did you do? What was the things that helped you be back in balance? I think that's so important in this time. Busy life.
Yeah, there were simple things. One was like make sure I was drinking enough water. One, make sure that I'm getting some daily exercise. 2, making sure I get enough sleep. I think 4 and 5 were make sure that I was allowing myself to be creative. And at that time, being creative to me meant to play my guitar. And then the 5th one, what was the 5th one? You might have stumped me.
We have 4 for now, and then perhaps.
Yeah. But I focused on those, and so then they were helping me, and my intuition said expand the list and write a book. Now, I'd never really written anything before, but I followed my intuition, and it took me about a month to write it. And my first book was Brian's List: 26 and a half easy ways to stay to live a fun, balanced, healthy life. And so I self-published it, and surprisingly, it had won an award, and so that just kind of pushed me in a whole new direction. And everything that's happened to me has just been a byproduct of working on myself. But when the book came out, I knew that I would need to maybe share it with people in various ways, whether it was an interview or what have you. But I was terrified to speak in front of people, so I just started forcing myself to do community college speech classes. I did Toastmasters for a little while. I hired someone to be a co-host with me on an internet radio show who's experienced. I created an interactive workshop. I just did a lot of things just to force myself.
Immerse yourself, throw yourself out there.
Exactly. And I also took an acting class with no plans of pursuing acting.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I just felt like it would be a good way just to kind of open up. And so I did the class, and it was fun. I didn't really think I would, continue acting, but I had an idea come to me in the form of a dream. I woke up, I wrote it down. Randomly, I met a young filmmaker, and I said, hey, I have an idea for a film. I don't know how to do it, but would you want to do it with me? And so he said, sure. And a couple of weeks later, we filmed Guitar Man, which Did pretty well at film festivals, but it really empowered me because I never planned on acting, but it was just a really fun experience. And I'd never played guitar in front of anybody either, and I played a guitarist in the film, so that was empowering for that as well. And the rest is just kind of just continually following the intuitive hits I get. And I moved to LA about 4 years ago, and am pursuing acting in addition to writing and other things.
It's really beautiful, that kind of the way things just popped up. I actually thought, I assumed, and it's wrong to assume, that you actually pursued acting as a career, just something you had to build up your confidence. It's really interesting that you just did it, you just went into it, but it's kind of worked out the way it has.
Yeah, you know, and I found I've been studying ever since I've been here, and those classes have really been huge in my own personal growth process and learning how to feel more and just, you know, just open myself up, which in turn has helped my writing and everything else. So they kind of scratch each other's backs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What was, for instance, Brian, when you was, you know, my journey is similar to you. I'm very scared about stepping up, but you kind of combed through it like it was effortless. Like, how did you go from the state of just going, okay, I'm going to feel the fear, but do it anyway? What was the thought process behind that?
Whew. In some ways, it has felt effortless. In other ways, it's been tough. You know, I just felt like I was supposed to do it, that first film, and so I just did it. And I just was able to set aside any fear that I had, because the feeling of like, this is what I'm supposed to do overrode that. And you know, and the more that we do, as we continually step out of our comfort zone, it gets a little bit easier. I'm not saying it ever gets easy, but you gain confidence and you realize you can do it. And sometimes you're thrown into situations that you don't know how you're going to make it through, but you do. You know, most of the issues that we suffer from are just in our head. You know.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not easy, but I just try to stay out of my head and just trust and know that I will land in whatever I try.
I like that, because when we come into our heart space, we end up grounding ourselves, and you haven't got so much judgment. There's something that I've been discussing with my children, actually, about growing through life. It's just like when you go to the gym, you know, you got to exercise the muscle, and there's nothing that can compensate from immersing yourself and having that experiential, like listening to your journey. It's very similar, you know, just experiencing it and exercising that muscle of experiential immersion. Then you grow through life, and it's kind of like you hurt, you heal, and you help. And I really love that kind of ethos that you've got going on. There's a lot of synergy there. So how many books have you authored?
Well, I've 3 officially. There was a few more ebooks that I've taken down since, because I've become a little bit better writer, and I'm going to reuse that material and some stuff going forward. But right now, 3.
Excellent. Could we see some of those? Could you share the titles of those?
Yeah. Brian's List is the one that I met. Whoops.
Yes.
That I met you. And then there's Finding Your Voice, which is a whole bunch of just quotes and blogs and stories that I put together.
Nice.
And then the children's book that I did last November called Steve the Alien.
Oh, this is the one I've been going absolutely. Yeah, that's the one that really got us going. I was with my kids. And tell me a bit about each of the books, please. You know, it's not nice that I'll just take a favorite for the purpose of listeners. You know, tell us a bit about the books.
Well, I mentioned a little bit about Brian's List already, the book about balance. And it's kind of funny. The books, maybe not Steve the Alien, but the other books that I've written were definitely for me first and foremost in my own personal growth process. So having balance for me has just been kind of my foundation as I've moved forward. So I really focus on staying in balance, which enables me to, I think, be more creative and to move through things a little more smoothly when they do get rocky. I love to go hike, and that really keeps me grounded and kind of helps me stay out of my head. You know, I meditate a little bit, exercise, and I try to eat pretty healthy. And so all those things in some ways help me kind of keep my channel to spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, clearer, which in turn allows me to hear my intuition clearer, which I think that is the roadmap for all of us.
Not to, I don't want to stop you, but how did you learn what that voice was? Because I think a lot of people talk about intuition, but also I've heard people saying, what is it? Is it from the head? Is it from the heart? How do I know what it is? How did you find your voice? How long did it take you to nurture and listen to, this is definite for me?
I think it's a little different for everybody. For me, it's just, I don't know if I feel it in my gut or in my head or anywhere. It's just like a knowing that I'm supposed to do this. I think I started kind of looking back. I started maybe paying attention to it. Gosh, way back in my early 20s, I got heavily involved in triathlons, the swim, bike, run races. And I just, I had a knee injury and I was rehabbing it, and I started getting in shape, and that started kind of feeling good and empowering me. And I had some buddies who had done a short race. And so I just kind of thought that would be a really neat goal, and to do a short triathlon. And so I worked toward that. And even like before that, I wrote a poem. It's not very good, but just about me finishing an Ironman distance race. And I kind of felt like I had the feelings and the emotions already there, even, a couple years before I even attempted one. Ooh. So I don't know, it was just kind of like, I felt like destined to just try that. And after I did the short one, it was just so much fun. I did 5 more that summer, and then I did like 10 the next summer, and then that
wow.
that third year was the first year that I did an Ironman triathlon. And so I felt intuitively drawn to them. And it's kind of nice because looking back, they really, at a young age, kind of helped give me some confidence to feel like maybe I could do anything I put my mind to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that helped me a little bit later down the road in some of the other things I'm taking on.
Oh, sorry to take you to your tangent. So going back to what you're saying about how your book was for you, and it was about getting you back in balance, and you was obviously hiking before I disturbed you. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Sorry, I was saying to continue your story about this book that you wrote about getting yourself back in balance, how it was actually for your healing.
Yeah, so the balance book, it's just looking back, it was no accident that was kind of my first thing, because that's been my foundation going forward. In addition to working on myself and working on self-worthiness and all that stuff that we all need to work on to help strengthen my foundation. But balance has been really important for me.
Yeah, and for all of us, Brian, I think one of the things that's coming to mind is that as a man, there's lots of talk about men don't share. How are you as a person, as an individual, all different? Was it easy for you to just say, hey, I need some help, or did you struggle with that for some time?
As far as just sharing my stories and my journey and stuff like that?
Before you kind of did this publicly, like starting the journey, yeah.
I think, I was probably one to kind of, I'm kind of an outgoing introvert. I get along with people great, but I do need some quiet time and alone time to kind of re-energize myself. And I'm perfectly content in that model a lot of times. But so I think there's probably definitely a part of me that held on to stuff and probably didn't share my feelings probably when I should have. And so it's been an interesting experience the last 8 or 10 years, and I'm still working on it. I mean, there's parts of me that, it's really easy for me to be open and stuff, but there's deeper parts that are finally starting to kind of come out, and it's interesting, but it's totally a process. And I'm working on another book that I'm excited about, that it's already kind of felt like it's been healing just working on it.
Wow.
It's kind of a memoir, but I want to try to do the men's version of a combination of the book Wild and Eat, Pray, Love. I know it sounds very ambitious, but
no, not at all. It is what it is. There's obviously a reason why it needs to come out the way it is coming out. Perhaps for the listeners, what kind of advice would you give to someone that finds it quite hard, and what are kind of the benefits from just saying, there's other people that's going through what I'm going through. Perhaps by me asking, it can help others and myself.
Well, obviously, if you have some good friends that you trust, that you feel like you can share some stuff with, that maybe aren't necessarily going to try to fix you, just listen. Because a lot of times when people give you advice, it's just their own fears coming on. They're not necessarily appropriate for ourselves. But That's one. You know, get involved in some things that force you to open up. You know, everybody should take an acting class. It's been so good for me, and
That's
you know,
interesting.
I hear the same thing from a lot of the people that I study with. You know, but yeah, it's okay. It's okay to. It's not easy, but it's okay. And, you know, and man, boy, having your support system, whether it's your family, and I mean, if they're closed off, then it's going to be really even harder. But just try to find people that aren't, and that will listen and just accept you and be non-judgmental, and but put yourself into situations that kind of force you to step out of your comfort zone and
I
see
like
what's.
I like that. And I think it was quite, I like what you said about the not needing to solve, because I think automatically some people you share and they're trying to fix it and you just need to offload. And I think that's really good, just to be able to be heard and listened to without judgment. So that's really good advice, actually. Thank you. Yeah, so moving on to your third book, Brian, how about you share that with us, and you know, the reason why and what the message is that it's trying to communicate with the world.
Finding Your Voice, or Steve the Alien?
Oh, Steve the Alien, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Steve the Alien. It's an interesting story in and of itself. I started just messing around like in 2004, just writing this rhyming kid story, and I got about halfway through, kind of got stuck, and so I put it aside, and I started looking at it again in 2007, and ended up kind of feeling like I had an idea to finish it, and I did, and then set it down for a few years, and then I ended up moving to Reno, Nevada from Oregon to be near my son while he was in high school for those 4 years. He lived in the Lake Tahoe area in Northern California. And I met a young guy randomly who was working for a company that made kid stories into kind of moving picture apps.
Oh, wow.
And they really liked it, and they found this. I had written a few others that liked those too, and so I signed a contract with them to make them into picture apps. And there was kind of dragging along, but some of the work was looking really amazing. They hadn't finished it yet, but then they ran out of money. And so then it just kind of sat around for a little longer. And I finally wrote them and asked to be released out of my contract. And then last year I just said, you know, it's time. And so then I met someone who I worked with. I hired her to kind of help me make sure that I did it professionally, and kind of learn how to do the launch and everything. And I found my illustrator on Craigslist.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and so I'm really happy how it turned out. And it was a lot of work, a lot more work than people might realize, but it was worth it, and I'm happy with the results.
It's here now. Yeah. What's it about?
Basically, it's about a boy walking to school, and a UFO lands and nearby, and he's scared at first, but then, you know, it's a friendly alien, and basically the alien is on a scavenger hunt put on by his school, and he needs a pair of shoes, and so the whole thing's rhyming, and so it kind of dances around, and he ends up giving him a pair of shoes, and he takes off, and I'm working on a sequel, and so yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out.
Well done. So tell us about Finding Your Voice, Brian. Your other book, Finding Your Voice.
Yeah, Finding Your Voice. That was a little scary for me, because it was a lot more personal than the first book I wrote was just a bunch of ways to stay in balance, and I just kind of tied in some of my own experiences with that. But Finding Your Voice was more personal, kind of the first step in me opening up and sharing on a much broader scale. But I'm really, really happy how it turned out. It won an award too.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But you know, it just it was good for me, and you know, people have said they've enjoyed it, and so that's the main thing, you know. But like I said, it was for me first and foremost, and if it can help other people.
So what's the core message about Finding Your Voice? Obviously the title.
Well, I mean, you know, it's just a combination of stories and experiences that I had, and little blogs that I wrote, and so I don't know if there's one particular message. It's just a whole bunch of different ways that I experienced life, and we're all so very much similar and common that we all, you know, I think most all of my experiences can definitely be shared with other people, and they can just input themselves into my little experience and go, oh my God, you know, I was in that same position then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, ultimately I feel like I'm just supposed to be here. Like I just want to be a living example for others, just to try to be their most authentic version of themselves as I work on it myself, just to give them permission to do the same.
It seems like you're doing a great job with that. Absolutely, like, just remarkable. Where can people get hold of your books? Do you have a website you can share? How can people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. All the books are on Amazon. And my official writing and acting name is G. Brian Benson. I go by my middle name. But you can go to my website too. It's just gbrianbenson.com. Okay. And I'm on all kinds of different social media, you know, Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff.
Same name? Is it the same name on the Instagram and Twitter?
Yep. Me, Brian Benson. Yep.
Excellent.
I want to thank my parents for that one. But.
Lovely. You know, I know you talk about wanting to use conscious and thought-provoking media to awaken people. Talk a bit more about that. That's really fascinating. When I read that, I was like, wow, that's really amazing, very deep.
Well, thanks. You know, in addition to the books, I've done a couple of short films that I wrote and acted in as well, like Guitar Man, which we talked about, and then one last year. It was called Searching for Happiness. And everything that I do, I kind of try to have a thought-provoking, potentially positive message in it. And so I'm going to be starting up a podcast here this week, and I'm going to start regularly blogging and doing a lot of things. So I just wanted to kind of create something that could be an umbrella for everything that I do. And so that's why I created Reawaken Media.
Excellent. And where can people see you? Do you travel the world, or are you predominantly out in the US?
I'm open to traveling, obviously, and I hope to. Right now, I'm primarily in LA, Los Angeles, and yeah.
Well, the show is called Dream Big. If you want to dream big now, what would be give me two things that the listeners could perhaps assist you with in creating that dream?
Oh my gosh, wow. It's interesting because I'm doing so many things. Sometimes I get myself bogged down a little bit, like I'm maybe like, what do I need to work on now? But I do feel like I'm going to start speaking in public a little bit more. You know, I did a TEDx talk a couple of years ago, and that was a really wonderful experience for me. And I basically just share the story that I kind of told you about how I left my family business and wove it through some points that I learned and utilized. But I'd like to do more speaking, public speaking. And so, you know, however they can assist with that, that's fantastic.
If anyone's listening that could invite Brian over to some events and talks, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and I really enjoy acting. I've got a small reoccurring part on a TV show that hopefully will be airing later this year. And, you know, I like to do so much, and it's been fun. So, you know,
dream big. You know, who would you like to go to dinner with? Who could you go to dinner with that would really,
oh my gosh,
cement your acting career? You know, we have to stop limiting ourselves. You know, we are connected to so many people. You know, who would you love to spend dinner with this evening?
I mean, you know, that's interesting. I haven't really thought about that as far as like somebody current. You know who I'd like to that's not with us anymore? I know a lot of people say it, but Abraham Lincoln. I mean, he just seemed like such a fascinating individual, who also had a sense of humor and just a folksy sense about himself, but yet he did so much and at the expense of, you know, his own health and just whatever. But just, I don't know, fascinating individual.
That's someone you would like to go to dinner with.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Crank up your time machine. I'll be there.
Yeah, you never know. And what about current? Is there anyone that's current that you would like to spend some time with, just to pick their brain? Sorry, I just put you on the spot, thrown it out there. Sorry.
God.
About childhood memory, do you remember as a child? Is there anyone you wanted to meet?
They're all sports people. You know who I'd like to meet? I hadn't even thought about it until I read it. Ron Howard. He has a huge experience in you know, he was an actor first, and he's been a very successful director. And yeah, it seems like a really down-to-earth guy. Ron Howard.
So Ron Howard, if you're listening, or anyone that knows Ron Howard, get in touch with Brian Benson. You never know what could happen.
Do lunch.
There's magic in connection. You know, Brian, I think it's just amazing that the way you express your journey, I think at the end of the day, we just have to simply be. And I think it's just really intrinsically important the way you've put it. You're not trying to be, do, or have anything. You're just being you and sharing each step of the way with other people. And I really believe that's how we learn from each other, because like you said, we're very similar. We believe that we're not, and people are not going through, but we have a lot of the same stuff, just kind of interpret it in different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this has not been an easy journey. Despite all the things people see that I may or may not have done the last 7 or 8 years, I've wrestled with a lot of them. And I really kind of had my little come to whatever moment last November when Steve the Alien came out. I was depressed for a week after it came out. And there was a part of me that I kind of have a feeling like I know where things are headed. And so I put pressure on myself when I create something that, is this the thing that's going to kind of maybe give me a little bigger platform or what have you. And so I haven't honestly been truly staying in the moment and enjoying all the things that I've created. I mean, I've enjoyed creating them, but I put a lot of pressure on myself too. And so I just, after that happened last November, I just said, you know what, if it's going to be like this, I don't want to do it anymore, because I'm not having fun. My expectations are kind of messing with me, and I'm not just staying in the present moment most of the time. So I've figured, I'm still working on it, but I got this little jar that I put little pieces of paper in there, a couple times a week on just little mini successes that I've had, and I throw it in there instead of like feeling like I have one massive one. I just focus on the little ones, and that
celebrate all wins. Absolutely.
Helps me stay in the moment and celebrate the wins and enjoy the process.
Yeah, that's
allow instead of push.
Yes. So what have you learned from that experience from last November?
Well, just it's so cliche, but it is the journey. It's not the final result. I mean, I've done 4 Ironman, and I rode my bike across the country, and they were wonderful, amazing experiences. But sometimes after I finished the race, it was just like, what's next? Instead of just really embracing the training and all that stuff, which I kind of did, but that's just one small example. But the books are other ones, and so yeah.
What do you do to relax, Brian? What's your kind of downtime?
I love to go hike. Getting outside, it helps ground me. Movies, I love movies. It's just a way to step out of my head and just relax, but also I can kind of study a little bit, and I enjoy watching some cable TV, and yeah, I'm pretty simple.
No, I think all solutions are, isn't it? I think sometimes we overcomplicate the process. It's just be yourself, and I think I think in society, especially nowadays, there's always something expected, and especially when you're a high achiever, people are waiting for what's next. So it's really important for us to just ground ourselves, say, actually, I don't need to give you anything next. I'm just kind of happy with that. And I think that's where people get burnout. You're sharing that with me. I've been there, and I know many people that have, because it's kind of, what's the next big thing? And you're quite right. You kind of achieve this, and you don't sit down and go, oh, wow, I've achieved this, and absorb it. You're just off to the next best thing. And unfortunately, you see a lot of people that don't make it back. You've managed to turn that back around, but I've seen people not turn it back around. So, well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well,
I've got a lot of support around me.
Well, that's a good thing. And I think that's something that you've mentioned from the start of the interview, is about the support system. So, if anyone's listening, you might not have friends or family around, because some people, one of the biggest problems in the world is loneliness. And, we're together, but we're still lonely and isolated. So it's like you said, find someone that you can confide in. It might just be a stranger on the street. But just if we feel like we're being heard from time to time, I think that's very therapeutic.
Absolutely.
So you've been an amazing guest, Brian. We can do another show in the future. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. I love the work that you do. I'm going to continue supporting what you do in any way I can. When you're in the UK, or if I'm out in the States, we'll have to meet up. I'd love to meet up and have a chat, and we'll just continue our relationships virtually for now until we meet each other. But really, really thank you. I'm really honoured that you accepted my invitation.
It's my pleasure, Sabrina. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You take care.
And you. Thank you.